Yo, this is Joel Davis,
And I'm Gracie Davis,
and this is Greater Than Real Estate.
where we go deep to find out who you really are beyond real estate.
What's up? Well, welcome back to Greater Than Real Estate. We have an amazing guest here, Elizabeth Gassos with City Up Real Estate, correct?
City Up Group.
Okay, City Up Group.
Yeah.
So we're super excited to have her on the podcast today to learn more about her and just the impacts that she's had in the communities that she's been in. So give us kind of a little bit of a background. Are you from Texas? How'd you get into real estate? Not everybody grows up wanting to do real estate.
Yeah, so I have a weird path to real estate. I moved to Texas when I was 12.
Okay.
So 1998, my mom's company got transferred here. And I went to college at TWU and graduated with a degree in business administration and marketing. I thought I was going to be a career woman like my mom. She's worked at her job for over 30 years. So I just thought that's what I was going to be. But I graduated in 2009, which was just not like the best market for jobs. And I worked at the time at the Apple store in college. So I worked at it's not there anymore, the one at Willow Bend Mall. And while I was there and graduated, I was like, well, I have benefits here. I like it. I'm just going to stay until I figure out what the next step is. Moved to California for a couple of years with an ex-boyfriend, transferred with Apple. And then when that ended and I wanted to move back to Texas, I was like, this is a good time to try and get a big girl job.
Mm-hmm.
So I did, and I worked at a company like a corporation for 1 year, and I didn't like it. I couldn't handle it. I just don't like sitting still. So being in a cubicle all day was like super rough. And also I didn't enjoy having bosses that like impeded your growth. So, and it's not even like it's their fault. There's like, they're trying to do their thing. Like they're not necessarily helping you grow. I didn't really see a future there. So I changed to a different job. I started working for SodaStream, that home soda machine.
Yes.
I was the regional trainer and representative for the merchandising portion of it. So my region was Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas. And I had to drive to every single Target, Walmart, Bed Bath & Beyond, Best Buy, in all those 4 states, plus other like mom and pop shops. So I was in the car 500 to 800 miles a week.
Wow.
I honestly I liked that job though because I was out and about all the time. Even if I'm going to like podunk little towns like Nashville, Arkansas, where their Walmart is like a steel walled like weird kind of thing. I drove by like farms and whatever, but I had a per diem and I got to rack up hotel points. It was fine. But eventually and that was like pretty much my middle to late 20s. And I just felt like I was missing everything at home. Like I wasn't around for birthday parties and to go to happy hour and couldn't date anyone because I was gone 75% of the month.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I just was like, what job can I have where I can stay home? I'm not going to like be forced to travel because I'm just over it now. But I also don't have a boss. I have self-autonomy already. Like in that job, my boss was in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. So like no one was watching me every day. And I was like, I was told, here's what to get done. And I did it. I did it well. And I even got like extra opportunities because I was good at my job. I got to go to Mexico City. I got to like do a bunch of stuff. So like I liked the job, but I just wanted to be home. And so this is so random how I came upon real estate as something to try. In middle school, I went to Coppell Middle School North. The Champion School of Real Estate was in the parking lot.
Wow.
It's not anymore, but it was. So every day when I was in middle school a long time ago in the like late 90s, I would look out in the parking lot and there's Champion School of Real Estate, which if you don't know, it's like the top real estate school in Texas. It just happens to be there, right?
Yeah.
So, and then whenever I was traveling all the time, the only channel that's on every TV in a hotel is HGTV.
Yeah.
You know that they're going to have HGTV. So I just always had it on. And I was like, I mean, that sounds fine. I'll do that. Knew no one in real estate, had never, ever thought about it. It just popped in my head one day, and I Googled Champion School of Real Estate, and the new campus was 5-10 minutes from my now house, like in North Dallas. And so
Wow.
I just drove over there. I was like, tell me about a career in real estate, to the person that was there.
Yeah.
The
She
front
talked
desk.
to me.
Front desk
Literally,
person
like,
had no
well,
clue.
like, things she gave me to like one of the instructors happened to be there. I don't even remember her name, but she just talked to me, and I was like, great. Like, how much does this cost? She's like, well, like, if you want to get licensed, it's like $1,000. If you want to go ahead and prepay for your SAE classes, like your second year, like then there's a $1,500 promotion. I was like, great, sign me up for that. I just gave her my credit card and just started classes. And I did it while I was still working at SodaStream. So what's nice is, like, because they have campuses all over Texas, I would just see what class do I need next. And I'm like, oh, that one's in San Antonio next week. So I'll just go to work in San Antonio next week because I could, and take that class in the evenings. So I would work during the day, go to class in the evenings all over like town.
Wow.
And then when it came time for my mid-year review at my old job, like, oh, do you, like, it's time for your mid-year review. And something came over me, and I was like, no, I'm just going to quit. And they're like, what? I was like, I don't want to reflect on this year and this job at all. I was like super unhappy. I was like, I literally had gotten my like license in the mail, and I was like, no, I'm done. And they're like, okay. I was like, I'll work my 2 weeks, but this is my 2 weeks notice. And they were just like, they didn't want like my attitude to like affect everyone. So they're like, we'll pay you for 2 weeks and you just don't have to keep working. I'm like, great, deuces, I'm out. And then I just hopped in. I had been interviewing brokerages and all that at the time. I'm with Keller Williams, and I was the person that was sending emails to every brokerage I knew the name of. So I literally sent emails to Ebby and Remax and whatever. No one got back to me except for Keller Williams.
Wow.
I also went to a couple other like brokerages that came and sponsored lunch whenever I was here in town for classes at Champions. And ultimately, like, just really enjoyed Keller Williams. I was like, great, this sounds like the place for me. And I've been there ever since. That was 2016.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
So I just feel like kismet kind of. And then I'm on the team. So that was like August, let's say, is like when I officially joined the brokerage. Learning all I could. Went to every single class. I'm unemployed at this point, so I'm like, I'm just gonna go to every single class that I could.
Yeah.
And when, I don't know if you guys know what Mega Camp is. Mega Camp's,
Yeah.
Keller Williams' big like summer conference in
Yeah.
Austin. So a bunch of people from the brokerage went to Mega Camp, and they needed help showing clients. So on our little Facebook group, they were like, hey, can anyone show so-and-so clients on this day? And I was like, well, what better way to practice than on someone else's clients?
Yeah.
I'd never shown a house before. I was like, I'm going to do this. And so I showed the house like I was taught to. I took notes. I sent feedback to the agent. Like, I was like, I'm going to do such a good job. And she came back, and an incident happened at Mega Camp to where they fired 2 agents off of the team. And at the time, Sarissa, who's still my partner to this day, was like 6 months pregnant with her son. And so she needed help showing properties. And so she was like, what am I going to do? Like, I don't have anyone to help. And the person that I ended up showing, Rachel, was on Sarissa's team. She's like, well, this girl helped me while we were gone, and she did great. You should interview her. And like by October, I was officially a part of the team and has been ever since.
Yeah.
We joined Ben Kinney team in 2017, which eventually turned into Place in 2020. And like we've just been rocking since then.
Yeah.
But I started off as a showing agent.
Talk about just going
Yeah.
full head on.
Yeah,
just
so I was like,
into
it's
it.
not like a normal story.
I was gonna ask, does like fear or being scared just ever even come across your mind?
You just gotta think about what's the worst that can happen? It doesn't work out, and you like
Yeah.
do something else. Like, it's not
Yeah.
the end of the world if
Yeah.
you fail at something. With so little stakes. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
married. I don't have kids. At that time, I didn't even have my dog. So like, I didn't need much
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
just figure it out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I would say y'all's team is pretty unique. Can you
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about y'all's team and just like the dynamic and like all of the things that like really make y'all awesome? because I get the pleasure of working with a lot of y'all. So
Yeah, I do think we're a unique team. The nice thing about teams is like they're all a little different, right? So we might be a great fit for someone that not a great fit for the next person. With our team, so we have Sarissa's our like we call her art operator. Sometimes you say rainmaker. She's like it's her team, right? And then there's agents underneath, but there's also admin staff. So we have a director of operations, 2 VAs, and I have my own admin now. And we're allowed to take buyers and sellers. We're also allowed to run our business however we want to. So if, like, for example, some teams say you have to do 2 open houses a week. I hate open houses. I've tried them. They work, right? They work. I don't like it. Some people say you have to make 150 dials every day. I don't like making dials. Now, they work. I was telling you guys earlier, I made 1,000 dials yesterday. Like, I was not happy about it, but they worked. Like whatever you want to do works. But for me, I have found over the years that I have to have like fun in my job, you know, in order to like it. So I do a lot of agent referrals, Sphere, past client. And so the team has like events that they put on for us. And all I have to do is invite my people to it, show up and see them and, you know, hopefully gain more business from them. But if someone really wants to do open houses and they're great at them, they'll support them in that. If someone wants to do door knocking, they'll support them in that. So we're not required to do a certain lead gen strategy,
right?
Which I love. It's more of, I think, like a culture of people that want to have great big lives that I like.
Yeah. And I think that's valuable because there's so many like ways to success for different types of people, different types of agents, you know, different types of personalities and things. So that's great that they support you in whatever, you know, avenue you want to take to success.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to dial in your lead gen? Because I think that's the one thing that a lot of agents struggle with, like especially newer ones. Oh, I'm going to just kill it on social media. Well, we all know in this business, it takes a while to be able to get some type of lead gen and to be able to establish a business. But I mean, you talked about it. You've done phone calls, you've done door knocks, you've done open houses. How long did it take you to dial that in? And what would be a suggestion that you would give to a newer agent when it comes to lead gen?
Years. It took years. I feel like I finally found my stride in like 2019.
Okay, so 3 years in, right?
Yeah, 3 years in. And I tried a little bit of everything. So, and I mean, there's lots of classes for new agents that say, do this, do this. I feel like I tried everything. Tried canceled expireds, and I tried open houses, and, you know, tried calling Sphere and all that sort of stuff. And, you know, it all works to an extent. But I hate life whenever I don't like what I'm doing. So if I'm, and through other coaching that I've done, I've discovered that for me, what motivates me is I need fun, freedom, and learning. If every day I have fun, I feel like I have, you know, freedom, independence, and I'm learning something, like that's a really good day, regardless of what happens that day. So like take an open house, I'm stuck. Right?
Yeah.
It's not fun to just sit there, wait for someone. Yeah, you can do other work or like try to do social media, like content in between. It's not super fun for me to like put signs out in 100-degree heat, you know?
If the signs
and I'm
even
not
go on the
learning
ground.
anything new, right?
Yeah.
So it just was not fulfilling me at all. Calls are sort of the same way, like a FISBOs and canceled expireds. They work, but like being stuck at my desk all day, getting people that are mad, you know, on the phone doesn't motivate me to do better. And so, but I didn't know that until like 2022, whenever I did this coaching thing. But I found I joined the Young Professionals group in 2018 at Keller Williams. And I just started going to events. My first one was September 2021. I went to Phoenix for like the launch of that chapter. I'd went by myself. I'd never like gone to an event before, but I was just like, I like Arizona, so I'm just gonna go. And there was a group of people that were putting together an Airbnb. They're like, hey, who wants to stay at the Airbnb? And I was like, sure. I'm like, that's a good way to make new friends. And it ended up being 11 of us in like a 3-bed, 2-bath tiny Airbnb. The room I was in like ended up having bunk beds, like 2 bunk beds that like 6 people had to be on. It was wild. But all those people from that Airbnb are like some of my best friends that I talk to almost every single day.
That's so cool.
And I was like, this was fun. And now, again, 5-6 years removed from that, my referral business is 50% agent referrals every year. And
Wow.
it's stemming from those relationships. Now I work at it really hard. Now I have like it more systematized, but I was like,
Yeah.
this is fun. I like this. How can I get more business from doing things that I like?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it started.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I love it. So you mentioned the Young Professionals Group. We know that's
Mhm.
something that you're super involved in.
Yes.
Tell us about the impact of that group and that organization for you.
Yeah, it's so hard for me to like put it into simple terms because it's just so much. So I started it here in 2018 is when we launched the Dallas chapter of the Young Professionals Group. One of the people that was heading it up the launch emailed a bunch of young professionals in the area that she knew. She was like, "Hey, would you be interested in this? Here's what our plan is." And I was just like, it came at the perfect time. I literally had told Sarissa, like within the month, I was like, I want to be more involved in something. I was thinking at the office, but I don't know what. Our office is great, by the way. It's the oldest Keller Williams office in DFW. So a lot of the people have
Wow.
been there a long time. And I was feeling discouraged, not because they weren't great agents now, is because I could never replicate the beginning of their careers. If they started their career in 1990,
Right.
like it's just not possible to like look at their beginnings and replicate those. So I wanted to meet more people who had started their careers at 30 like I did and were now successful. So I was like, oh, this is perfect. Like this ticks all the
Yeah.
boxes that I want.
Right.
So I was a founding member, like became like the social chair because I was like, sign me up for whatever. They're like, you do this. I'm like, great. I had never planned anything before. And now it's like one of my favorite things to do. And so that started here like locally and we had like a really great thing going. COVID happened and that changed things, but a lot of things went online. And while we were doing a lot of things like here in town and I was meeting lots of great agents that are also still great friends here in town, that honestly opened up the national world a little bit more because like we'd been connected at conferences and stuff, but you're only meeting people, hi, I'm this, here's where I'm from,
Yeah.
and not super connecting. But I did this book club like virtually with the young professionals back then. And I think there was it was like 6 months of like every month we'd go over like the chapter or like 6 weeks or something like that. I don't even remember.
Yeah.
But I met people in that book club. There was maybe 7-10 of us max in each one. And I just met them and like got to know them.
Yeah.
And then whenever we were allowed to be in person again in Orlando, I think it was 2022 Orlando Family Reunion, another conference, we were all like, we've been friends for the last like 2 years and this is the first time we're meeting. And it was just so wonderful and lovely.
Aw.
And now like they're still my best friends. We have all these group chats in Facebook. One of them's our gratitude chat. Every day we say what we're grateful for. I have another one that's just like
Love it.
girlfriends, and we talk like more like women's stuff. Like some of them are moms, some of them are married. Like any issues that they're having, or like even this morning, I sent them a picture of like, how does my outfit look today? Let me know what you think. So it's just been so supportive because even though like I have friends here, I love friends here, I have colleagues here. It's great. It's different. It's hard to find a group of people that are as ambitious as you and like want big lives
Yeah.
just walking around, right? Like it's
For
hard
sure.
to find like that tribe.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's what it's done, and it just like propels you forward. So
Yeah.
it's just been just so impactful with like every aspect of my life.
Yeah.
I mean, the joy, like when she asked you that question, like it's like you hit a
Yeah,
second
I know.
gear
They're my-
just
they're-
talking about it. That's
They're
so
like my
cool.
heart. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think there's other brokerages that even have something similar to this?
People have tried. What's funny is like, agents leave Keller Williams or other brokerages all the time, right? And there's there's people that have left KW to other brokerages and have tried to start a young professionals group because they know how impactful it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't speak for them. I don't believe any of them have had as success as we have, but we've also been around a lot longer. So
Yeah.
I definitely would hope that they do because I really do think it's just such a great community.
Yeah.
And even if like you're not a young professional anymore, like I'm at the very top age, but they're not kicking me out ever.
You're always young.
Yeah. I was like, they're not ever kicking me out, and they know that. But finding a community in general,
Yeah.
is just so impactful. It's more impactful
sure.
than people realize. There's this coach named Brendan Burchard. I don't know if you guys know him. He said something in a class that I listened in on recently, and it was like, when times are hard, don't go off and die alone.
Yep.
Because a lot of people just like don't share that they're struggling.
Yeah.
And so that's what I feel like this community doesn't let you do that. Like, even if they don't hear from you for a while, like they're like, hey, what's going on?
Exactly.
That's amazing. That's something that we talk about big
Yeah.
time, is like what you're struggling with, you're not alone. There are
Absolutely.
so many more people that are struggling with what you do, and you have so much more in common with people around you than you would even know. You just have to take that step and just do that. Being alone is just, I mean, we came out of 2020, and I think that was one of the most loneliest time for the whole United States.
Yeah.
So just the need for just conversation and being able to talk to people, like I think people that stepped into that during that time and sought out community have just grown so much, and the people that didn't and kind of reclused back, I mean, I think they really struggled during that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's isolating for sure. I definitely value like the community that we have, and I think it, like you said, it makes you grow so much more than if you were going at it alone. So that's huge.
And
I'm
I think
glad
the
that you have that.
genuineness of the community matters too, because like you said, they'll reach out to you. Hey, what's going on? You haven't been talking. That is hard to find, because some
Yeah,
people don't want to
true.
go out of their way to be able to check in on somebody. That's something that I've talked to her about. It's hard to have the same expectations that you have for yourself on checking on people for them to check in on you or check in on other people. It's a little bit unfair, and that's something that I'm working through right now. But I think finding a community where people are genuinely caring about you and care more about you as a person and not your business is what totally changes relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I get referrals from the group, but I think if referrals stopped tomorrow, I would still be in it because I get so much more. Like my personal growth over the last 5 or 6 years in general, like I attribute a lot of it to just being connected to that group.
Yeah. So I want to go back just a little bit, because I know you said you moved to Texas when you were 12. Where were you living before?
So I was born in Mexico.
Okay.
And then my mom married my stepdad in 1991. So I was 5, I think, whenever we moved to Los Angeles, or like Anaheim is where I grew up, like where Disneyland is.
Okay.
So I did all elementary school in California.
Awesome. And then you said you moved back to California like when you were an adult, and then decided to come back to Texas. So what led to you wanting to get back to Texas?
What's funny is I went there for a boy, right?
Yeah.
But I had already lived there, so I was like, this is not that big of a stretch. And I always thought, like, worst case scenario, like my godmother's there, like other people are there in case it doesn't work out. So again, it wasn't there. If it failed, who cares? It would still be an adventure. And whenever it was done, I just was like, it's so expensive to live there.
Even then.
Because even then, I think I moved back in 2012. And even then, gas there was like $5 a gallon, which is, I don't know what it is now, but that was a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
And I couldn't afford to do anything. Like I could not afford to leave my house on my day off because I couldn't afford gas outside of getting to and from work every day.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
And like the good thing is that's the time of like YouTube makeup tutorials were a thing. So I just like played with makeup, learned how to do my hair. Like I did something.
Yeah.
But I literally wasn't able to do anything.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, yeah, there's beaches, there's Disney, there's mountains. I was like, I literally can't afford to drive to any of those places.
Wow.
So when that relationship was done, I was just like, no, I want, like I said, I need the freedom and fun. Like I'm not getting that here, even though it's technically all around me.
Yeah.
So decided to come home.
Yeah.
And so you worked at Apple, and I know you're a huge Apple person.
Yeah.
Why Apple?
Oh, another like such a random thing. I think when was this? 2006, I think. I was in college and I had my high school college boyfriend, and it was like, what do you want for Christmas? Like, he wasn't the person that gets me surprises. So I was like, I want an iPod video. Get me an iPod video.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right. And so he bought me an iPod video, and I loved that thing. And I had, computers and laptops. Like, it wasn't like a thing as much as it is now.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
an elder millennial. So like, I just had like, a Dell or something like that. But I loved my iPod. And at the time I worked my high school job, like early college job, was Old Navy. So like super, and I started working there when I was like 17. So I got paid like nothing. But at that point in time, like when I was also full-time school, I was at Old Navy, I was the lead for the women's, girls, babies, and accessories department, like almost the whole thing. I was getting paid like $8 an hour.
Let's go.
And my boss was just like, I want to pay you more, but I'm like, as a company, not allowed to increase people's pay more than a certain percentage.
Oh.
She's like, you're definitely worth it. And so I was like, well, like, I can't work here for like only a 5% raise every year when you started off so low. And so I just started to look around at other places, and I applied for a lead cashier job at the Apple Store. Which of course doesn't exist anymore because they don't have cash registers anymore. But back then they had cash registers. And that's what I was at Old Navy. Like, the official title was lead cashier. And there was this manager that worked at Old Navy named Reggie, not at my store, at another store, but like I'd seen him around, and he now worked at the Apple Store. So he knew one of my references, who was my manager, Susan. And so they brought me in, like, got the job right away, full time, but because I was lead cashier, not for anything techie at all. I only owned an iPad video at the time. And I started working there September 2007. The iPhone came out June 2007.
Oh, wow.
So it was like the beginning of this like tech revolution, and it was so cool to be a part of it.
Yeah.
I also, because I was a full-time employee, and I had like benefits and stocks and stuff, stocks for Apple in 2007.
Dang.
Let's go.
That's
have you cashed those in?
I had to when I lived in California sometimes, literally like to pay rent sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh.
But I would sell like one at a time. And so
That's
I still have
crazy.
a bunch of it, but yeah, it was
That's
like
awesome.
$74 a share back then. It split a couple times, so that's been nice. Like something I didn't plan for, right?
Right.
I'm more of the person like, please take things out of my paycheck so I don't see them. So I'm like, max out retirement, max out stocks. Like I want it out of my control. So that was thankfully a good decision.
Wow.
But yeah, so I started working there, and then eventually, and I'm also the type of person that I didn't know until that job, that if I'm given something like, here's a free X, I'm like, I'm going to take advantage of this opportunity that's been given to me. And I didn't really know that was something that was like became part of my personality until that job. Because when you're an Apple Store employee, you get a lot of free software.
Oh.
Because the companies want you to recommend their software, right? Oh. And so we got all the Apple stuff for free. So like Final Cut Pro and Aperture and Logic, all that stuff like employees got for free.
Yeah.
Because they thought maybe like if you use it, obviously you'd be able to sell it to clients more. And so even though like I'm never going to be able to really use that stuff, that I'm not that techie, some of the smaller things, or even just like Pages or Keynote, like the different Apple things, I did every single tutorial. Like I learned how to use things at their highest capacity, because I'm like, I'm not going to squander that this was given to me.
Yeah.
Same thing when I finally bought my first computer. I got an Apple discount, but it was still an expensive computer. And I'm like, I'm not going to waste any penny that I spent on this computer. I went through every single program that came on that computer, learned every single thing. Even if I, again, never ended up using it, I was like, I'm going to learn how to do everything on this computer, because I spent a lot of my hard-earned money on this. No one else paid for it. I'm going to learn everything. Same thing when the iPhones came out. I'm going to learn to use it to its fullest capacity. So that eventually, whenever the cash registers went away, I became what was then called an FRS, which is a Genius, at the Apple Store, but only for mobile devices. So I just fixed iPhones for a while, and then eventually became a Genius admin, which is like the back of house person for the Genius, like the tech servicing portion of the store. So made sure we had parts and all that sort of stuff, which was great. I love that job.
Yeah.
But yeah, I worked there for like 5 years. And again, those people became my family and community.
Yeah.
Those are still some of my best friends to this day, 17 years later.
Wow.
Like I see them all the time. Like I've been in their weddings. Like I'm like, those are my best friends.
Wow.
So like that community shaped me as a person in my early 20s. Like the YP community has here. Cause it like that app, like the Apple store attracts a certain kind of person.
Yeah.
That person likes change. That person likes new technology.
Yeah.
They like to learn, you know. So it was just a great place.
So are you saying Android is the total opposite?
I mean, I don't know anything about it, right? Like, but
Android's not attracting the
I
right
don't know.
clientele.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to
Or,
bash
workers.
the green bubble people, but I am definitely an Apple girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that I love just about your story is that you're always looking to learn. Like you never want, like you said, any opportunity to be squandered. Like you want to take advantage of every opportunity you're given to learn and excel in it. And I think that's such a unique quality about you that makes you so successful, because there's so many people who don't go down those avenues because they're just like, oh, I don't want to deal with that. Or
I'm thankful that my family is very learning based. Like my mom, she's an engineer.
Yeah.
And her sister is like a food and chemistry like professor and has been my whole life. Literally like started doing it the year I was born, so like 38 years. My grandpa had his own company, and he was a printer, but it's equivalent to what a graphic designer is now.
Okay.
Like he made wedding invitations and newsletters and business cards and any like paper products for people.
Yeah.
And so he was always needing to learn whatever was new, right?
Yeah.
And whatever was good for business. And so all technology and all learning was always super encouraged. And whenever the new thing came out, he would get like a new computer, and then the old one would go like to the next kid or something. And like I was the oldest grandkid, so I would get to play with them too. So like I would do typing lessons on like, you know, a little computer that had like a Star Wars typing game on it. And I would just like be playing, and I'd be in his office like watching him and stuff. So I was always around an environment that like we always want to be learning. We always want to be growing. Wow. It was never, and like, and not even like directly in your face. I just saw it around. And also when it comes to community, I like realized this recently too. Like my family's like that too. Like my grandpa, every Wednesday had his friends over for coffee and pastries every Wednesday. So like they'd get together. My grandma would play cards with her old lady friends every single day.
Yeah.
They would come together. You know, like my mom, my aunts and stuff, all of them have had like friends and relationships that they have cultivated for their whole lives. Like they invite people over, they go visit, you know, they make the phone call, they make do the text message.
Yeah.
So I've just always been surrounded by like, hey, you can't just sit back and like wait for things to happen. Like you have to go do them.
Yeah.
Right. Mastering your craft, no matter what it is, I feel like is something you're very passionate about, and community, which are two things that I think make very successful people. And it also makes you so much more like trustworthy as a real estate agent, and just as a friend, you know, to be able to know that if I came to you and needed you to get me a home, like you're going to make sure that I get exactly what I need. And you've done all the research and all of the work to make sure. And if you don't have an answer, you're willing to go find it, you know, like that's what's really impressive just about the way that you are, and the way that you probably, you know, continue to do business and continue to build a relationship. So I love that.
I sit back and think, like, how do people in this world do life without community? Like, to me, it just kind of baffles me. Like, you're missing so much. You know, it's interesting. People say, like, when they go out in the wilderness, they're like, oh, this is God's country. And I'm like, no, like, God wanted people in community. So I just don't understand how people can just sit back and not be in community.
I feel like people think that community means that you're like going out to parties and bars and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
How I keep in touch with my friends is I invite them over for puzzle parties.
Yeah.
I'm a big old nerd.
Puzzle parties.
There's this puzzle company I love called the Magic Puzzle Company. It's like you build a puzzle and then there's like a secret at the end. It's fun.
Ooh.
And literally, it's a 1,000-piece puzzle. Those take a long time by yourself. Like
Yeah.
it would take
Yeah.
days. And it takes us like, I have like 4 to 6 people over that are free on like a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not even feeding them. I'm like, bring your own food and whatever you want. And like, we're just going to make this puzzle
Yeah.
together. And we just chat and like build a puzzle together. And it
love
takes
it.
like 5-6 hours to do. But like, that's bonding quality time. And that's like, we're
Yeah.
not going crazy. We're not doing, anything that costs even a ton of money. Like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, so, but we're staying together or just like going to trivia night, like, I love
Yeah.
trivia.
Are you a trivia nerd?
I am.
love
Pre-COVID,
it.
I would like go to like competitions.
What?
They don't really exist anymore. Like they haven't like ramped up as much, but yeah, I love them.
Wow. That's fun.
Yeah. So big old nerd, but yeah, you don't have to do anything like wild. So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I think people think that, oh, I need to be surrounded by a lot of people. Like it's totally okay to have 1, 2, 3 other people in smaller groups.
Yeah. Those
Yeah.
quality conversations and not
Yeah.
just like the surface level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But
out and
sometimes you're
doing
the one
whatever.
that has to be the planner, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Very intentional.
Mm-hmm.
So you talk about being a nerd. Are you a DC or a Marvel person, or what type of nerd are you?
Yeah, I'm more of like a Harry Potter,
Okay.
Pokemon Go nerd.
Okay.
And I think a nerd just is someone that's like passionate about what they like unapologetically, right?
Yeah.
Like he
Yeah.
doesn't like you can be a sports nerd and you
Yeah.
can be
Yeah.
an insurance nerd or whatever you want.
Nobody's
But,
an
like,
insurance
yeah.
nerd, let's be honest.
But it's just like being so genuinely like pumped and psyched about like the things that you like.
Yeah.
And so I just love, like, I love Jurassic Park. I
Ooh,
love,
yes.
that's my favorite movie. I love Jeff Goldblum. I collect Jeff Goldblums if anyone ever sees one
What?
around.
Okay. I'll
Um,
keep that in mind.
I have nanytime from Jurassic Park.
I
that's my
love it.
favorite.
Anytime we go to Florida and you have people parasailing, I always go back to Jurassic
yeah.
Park when people are parasailing above the clouds, and then when they come out, they're not there because somebody ate them. Because I'm never gonna do that.
That was the
ever.
second movie.
I will never
I love
parasail
Jurassic Park.
ever. Just the thought that there's a
Even though
pterodactyl.
there's no dinosaurs.
There could be no clouds in the sky, and I still won't do it.
That's so funny. Yeah. Yeah. So it's just, I'm passionate about the things that I like.
Yeah.
I like Disney. Marvel's fine.
Yeah.
It's never been like my top thing. Like,
Yeah.
there's certain things I like, but the things that I'm just like, oh, I really like this is,
Yeah.
there's just a bunch of nerdy stuff that I like.
So, how many times have you gone to Disney?
Oh, I have no idea. Last year I went
Like
3
you,
times.
you lost count, you lost count this so
Dang.
much.
Well, I grew up in Anaheim.
Okay.
So
And
I don't
that's
know how many
Disneyland.
Disneyland. Yeah.
Okay.
And also my stepdad's from Florida, so every couple years we'd go to Disney World
Yeah.
as a
Nice.
kid growing up. And then anytime I visit my friends in California, like they all are annual Disney pass holders, so I go back.
Yeah.
I have one friend that she's still like in Anaheim, like where we grew up. And so she knows people that work at the park. So sometimes we get like signed in for free whenever.
It's all about who
that's
you
there.
know.
Yeah. But like last year I went to Disneyland, Disney World, and I went to Disneyland Paris for the first time. So that was really
Ooh.
fun.
What was the biggest difference?
It's like if you've ever been to Disneyland or Disney World.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
Disneyland has the 2 parks,
Yep.
right? Disney World has like a bunch
4.
of them.
Yeah.
So it's more similar to Disneyland in the setup because there's only 2 parks. But they have some things from kind of both, and then some things that are completely unique to them. My favorite part is that they have a Toy Story Pixar kind of world
Okay.
at Disneyland
Ooh.
Paris, which apparently might be coming to the States. I don't know.
Interesting.
Got to be
Yeah.
in the know with the Disney blogs. But that was really fun. They had like really cool stuff. Also,
Yeah.
it's a tiny bit smaller, but because there's less people, like there was a lot of people there, but I don't know. I only had to wait like maximum 20 minutes most of the time, which was wild.
Oh,
We went on
Wow.
almost every single ride. There's still like a lot of people around. It's just a little bit smaller vibe. So I loved it. I highly recommend any Disney fans go to Disneyland Paris. It's really nice.
Yeah. And the Harry Potter one, is
Yeah.
that in the Paris one, or is that
Harry
No,
Potter's
one of
at
the
it's in
ones here?
Universal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I've
that
heard
one's
about
in
that one.
Florida and in California. I've
Yeah.
only been
Okay.
to the one in Orlando.
Okay.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah.
And they're building a new world. I'm very excited.
So
Yeah.
are you Gryffindor? Are you Slytherin?
Ravenclaw.
Ravenclaw.
Wit beyond
Okay.
measure. This man's greatest treasure. Yes.
So did you read the books growing up too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, those books also kind of just shaped who I am. So the first book came out in 1997.
Yeah.
Harry was 11.
Yeah.
I was 11 in 1997.
that's
So
so
like,
cool.
I feel like I grew up every year where a new book came out.
Yeah.
I was a little bit older, obviously, by the time like the last books came out, but
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
those just like,
She should have wrote them faster.
I know. And that's my comfort book. Like anytime
Yeah.
I go through something hard and I just like need like a comfort something, like there's comfort shows, comfort food.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just need to put the Stephen Fry audio version of Harry Potter on and
Yeah.
just listen to it all again.
Wow.
That's so cool.
And it
I
just makes me
recently,
cozy.
I don't know if you've seen this, but there's like a documentary about Daniel Radcliffe and like his stunt double.
Oh no.
There's like a movie. I watched it.
Oh yeah.
I don't know a lot about Harry Potter, but
Yeah.
it just intrigued me when we were flying back from Key West. I watched it on the plane, and it was a very
I'll have to look
interesting
for it.
story.
I'm not
Yeah,
like that big on the movies. I mean, I
Oh,
like them.
okay,
I watch
okay.
them,
Yeah.
but I'm more of a book
Yeah.
girl.
for sure.
But of course, I love Daniel Radcliffe and all the
Yeah,
crew.
yeah.
I'm excited. There's a new show on HBO Max.
Yeah.
It's gonna come
Is
out.
there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be like a season, an episode, and like the director that was just hired and the showrunner that was just hired were on like Game of Thrones and
Okay.
The Last of Us and stuff. So it's gonna, I think, be like super good. I'm really
Wow. yeah, that'll be interesting. And
Yeah.
since it's episodes, it'll be a lot more like in detail.
Mhm.
Because I know that
Yeah.
was a lot about what people didn't like about the movies. Is like it took out so much of the
So
details.
I mean, they had to.
Yeah. The
books are
like,
so
like I get it.
Or
but
the
yeah.
movie would have been six hours
Yeah.
long.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
exactly.
that's what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
You
sorry.
got it.
I was just going to go back to like kind of the real estate. Like your main things are like freedom, fun, and learning.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to like your daily routine,
Mm-hmm.
because you said, sometimes you don't know what you're doing the next day. You just
Yeah.
plan for that day kind of thing. So like what does your routine typically look like? And what do you plan for and what do you kind of just let happen?
Yeah. So when I say I don't look at the next day, doesn't mean it's not planned out.
Yes,
I just
yeah.
like mentally have not given
You can't
myself
get
the
there
space
yet,
to think
yeah.
about it yet. I am very planned out.
Yeah.
My calendar is color coded and it is like, I try to stick to it. And if I don't, I go back and adjust. So it like shows like the true thing that I did that day.
Right.
So my routine as far as daily, like I used to try and be one of those people that's like 5 a.m. every day. Realistically, like I just don't want to get up at that time. I also don't go to sleep very late though. I'm like in bed normally by like 9:30. I might not be asleep yet, but like I'm in bed.
Yeah.
yeah.
And my alarm still goes off at 5, but I snooze until like 6 or 6:30. And that's my routine, right? Like it's just is what it is. I'm not like super early riser. And then, I get up, get my coffee, try to get breakfast, get ready. And then I'm normally at the office between 8 and 8:30. I have to go to the office. I know some people are like, oh, you're a real estate agent. You're flexible. You can work from home. You really of course, there's lots of people that work from home, but I cannot concentrate when I'm at home. I have 2 dogs, chores all around the house, and you just kind of like stop working to like, oh, I can just do this one thing real quick, or
Yeah.
dogs start barking in the middle of a Zoom and it like kind of throws me off kind of thing. So I like to go into the office. I'm normally there all day unless I have an appointment for something else. I try to set boundaries with work of like, as long as I've done my one thing by like 4 or 5, I can go. So if I've set my appointment or I've done whatever I need to do by that day, I can go. If not, then I might stay till like 7. But I'm trying to accomplish my goal. And then after 7, like I really just don't want to think about work anymore. So like at home, like I go home and it's my space. Like I instantly relax. I think there's something really big about like your environment.
Yeah.
So like even in my bedroom, I don't have a TV in there. Like my bedroom is for resting. And like I don't do any work in bed. Like I literally just go in there to relax. So like I have very regimented spaces like that. But my day's dynamic. When you're a real estate agent, it's all over the place. So I do have to move stuff around. But if something like, for example, let's say today I'm supposed to make calls, but this happened yesterday. I was supposed to make calls for 3 hours, but I got a listing appointment. You're like, well, that's the point of making calls, is to go on the listing appointment. So I was like, well, I have to reschedule these 2 hours of calls. And I looked on my calendar and I did not have 2 free hours until July 31st. And I was like, well, that's moving. Like they're not getting deleted.
Yeah.
They're being moved. So I was like, okay, well, like it is what it is.
Yeah.
And I might have to move stuff around later if I ended up getting behind. But like things move like around, but they don't go away. Yeah.
Right.
Or sometimes on Mondays, I do like to look at my calendar and really ask myself, what do I need to say no to, which is really hard for me. I get FOMO. I like saying yes. I like having fun and going out and doing stuff. But sometimes, are you like that too?
Yeah. I struggle with that as well.
I have trouble with that. And so sometimes I just have to be like, okay, is this helping me reach a goal? It doesn't have to be a work goal, but like, you have work, wealth, relationships, health goals, whatever. Yeah. And so it's like, if it's not meeting any of those goals, then I really have to just come like to a realization with myself and cancel the thing.
This is so fascinating. How long did it take you to kind of go through this process, or have you always been super detail oriented? Like
No, it's been years, years and years. I want to say like 2020 though. So the founders of the company I work for, was this place, Ben Kinney and Chris Suarez. They used to have a class called Time and Money. And I mean, now they're way more business partners, but back then I think that might have been the first thing that they did. I think I saw it for the first time before then even, but it was around that time, maybe 2018, 2019. I don't even remember anymore. A long time ago, they did this class called Time and Money. And it was all about how, like, the 80-20 principle, right? 80% or 20% of your activities yields 80% of your results. And that's that principle is true in lots of different things in the entire world, not just real estate. And so Chris said in that he wanted to learn more about time. So for a whole year, all he did was read books about time and like time management and scheduling. Like he wanted to like be really great about that. So I feel like I didn't go as hardcore as him, but I feel like I did something similar then, where I'm like, okay, what am I learning? What skill am I learning this year? And so I'm like, okay, this year I need to learn time management. And any class that came up that was about anything else, I did not go to. And so I still have that philosophy now. Like now, all I want to do is get better at listings, leadership, and like social media, which social media is just, the time is hard for me right now.
You are really good at it.
I love doing it.
Very
it's
consistent.
Like a time commitment thing where it's like, yes, if I did more of it, I could reach more business goals, right? But I'm also reaching a lot of business goals now, and I have good clients now, so it's like they've already hired me, like they deserve my time more, so it's really hard for me to find a balance. But those are the 3 things that like I've been focusing on in 2024. And if there's another class that does not match those things, like I cannot go to it. Like I'm not allowing myself to go to it. So and like last year, I think I did discipline. Of like, I just need to learn discipline. And so I did a lot of those kind of readings and books and all that. Yeah. So we'll see what next year holds, but that's, and because there's too much to learn. Right. Like there's too much that you could potentially get better on. So having like a smaller focus has been super helpful.
I like that because you're pretty honed in on that one thing for a long period of time. And that's the one thing you're worrying about instead of people that grab here, grab here, grab here, grab here. And it's like, you're a jack of all trades but
and
a
master of none. Yeah, exactly. So that's why but even just like if it's just one thing, it's like not enough, so I chose 3. I was like, that's a good I think number to where enough variety.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So something that I've noticed about you is you're very joyful, you're very passionate about what you do. we both, we all know in this industry, there's a lot of ups and downs. There's a lot of tough conversations, tough things happen, and there's a lot of great things that happen. So how do you continually stay positive and get through like difficult seasons?
Yeah. That's also a learned skill.
Yeah.
So, a couple years ago, so do you guys know what NLP is? Neuro-linguistic programming. So there's
No.
a class called Language of Sales.
Okay.
I think it's a Keller Williams class. I don't know. And it talks all about speech, right? And so we learn speech patterns and how like to communicate that in a sales environment. And that's where it started. And then, it intrigued me because it'd be things like, do you want to buy a house today? Is different than, do you want to buy a house today? And it's like small things like that, right? So that's where like that journey started. And then I started to learn a little bit more. And I learned a word called a pejorative. Pejorative is just a negative word. No, can't, don't. They're just negative words, right?
Right.
And I challenged myself to not have any pejoratives in my language and just see, can I retool the sentence to not be negative? So, for example, if a client says, hey, then you can tell me what your real answer would be. I want a house in Frisco, 5 beds, 4 baths for $400,000 built in 2022 or newer.
I would say good luck.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
You'd be like, awesome. I can find you that exact house for this price. I could find you a house for that price that looks like this, or I can find you that house in this area. Which do you prefer?
Interesting.
I did not say no.
Yeah.
Right? I gave them 3 solutions.
Right.
And so takes a lot of time to like try to retool it. But now I've gotten to the point where I do it like to myself. Like I'm like, oh, I can't do that. And I'm just like, wait, I am choosing not to do that today. Right? Like it also gives me more responsibility over my real actions. This was, I think, in Bold, which is, another Keller Williams class, that someone was saying, I don't have time for this. Switch that to, it's not a priority for me.
Yeah.
And that's like, might change your mind, because if your child is telling you, hey, like, spend time with me, and you're like, oh, I don't have time for that. But then you change it to, it's not a priority for me. It really makes you think, like, oh, crap, is this actually what I should be doing? So I felt like it made me just be a little more honest with myself about stuff as well. So even like, going to the gym or eating healthy, it's always been a struggle. And so it's just having to ask myself those questions in different language helped like restructure stuff. And again, these are over like years trying to like learn stuff. That I've just picked up different skills.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That's so cool. You know, a lot of people we've noticed, well, when I got done with baseball, I noticed I put my identity in baseball and the successes and the failures that I had in baseball. And since I've gotten into this industry, I've realized a lot of people still put their identities in their job or as a sister or as a mother or how their success is. 1, have you struggled with identity issues? 2, where do you see your identity?
Absolutely struggle. Because I don't really want to be known as like a real estate agent, because it's not like I got into real estate to sell real estate, right? It served other goals of mine of like independence and no financial ceiling and, being in control of my life kind of thing. So as far as identity goes, that's never something I wanted. So I don't think I ever thought of myself as just that, but definitely struggles because, I still feel like I struggle with it. Like I said, I'm not married and I don't have kids. So a lot of people, when they think of like, oh, what's your big why? Like, why do you do this? That's always been a super hard question for me because I feel very selfish in the answers that I kind of have. Because I'm just like, well, I like to travel. I like to have fun and adventures. And so is that my big why? Like, that seems not enough. But no one else is telling me that. It's me that's telling me that. It's like, that's something I really want to be known for. My friend recently was telling me, I think your big why is that you like to win. Like, you just want to win. I'm like, really? That just also seems like kind of psychotic, that, So I still struggle with it. I still don't know. I feel like right now, I also had a big shift mentally recently. I always thought I'd have like a kid, even if it was on my own. And recently I've shifted to where I'm like, I don't think that that's going to happen. There's just a lot of political things and other things that frankly make me happy enough to where I'm like, I think I'm just going to be a fun aunt, and that's okay. And so that's been a bit of an identity shift of like, even though I don't have any, like even like always thinking that I would, and now having to live in a world where like maybe I don't, and like just trying to figure that out. And the more and more I sit in it, honestly, I'm okay with it, because it's also like kind of nice to just be like, hey, I'm kind of burned out. I'm going to buy a ticket to Paris for next month.
And just go.
And, you know, invite a friend, and she came with me, right? And like, you know, so it's there's give and takes to that, but I don't think I have an answer of like what my identity is now. I don't know. So
But you do know it's not in work.
No.
Which is great.
I love to challenge myself. And work can be very challenging, right? There's that saying, new levels, new devils. So it's like, no matter how good you get at your job, you're just telling the universe that you can solve bigger problems, and bigger problems will come. So like, it's, you know, or even I have a client right now who I want to do a good job for, because obviously I want to do a good job all the time, but also he inherited 100 houses from his mother, and I want that business, right? So I know, right? And so I'm like, you know, like that's a challenge. I'm like, I want to like really prove myself, be of value to him, and really earn that eventual business. It's not tomorrow, but like, you know, like that's a challenge I want to go for. There's physical challenges I want to try out. There's just different things like that I know they're more enticing to me, and work just kind of helps pay the bills and be able to meet people and have a good time. Like it's
So to kind of piggyback off that question, like what, you know, some realtors, they think like, okay, this many transactions per year, or this vacation that I'm going to get to with my family because I've done XYZ sales. Like for success in the industry, like what does success mean to you? Because pretty much what you've, you know, said is it's not just one thing, you know, and it's also not just like selling this many houses, you know, it's like, it's about your lifestyle and the freedom and like the things that you can do because of your lifestyle.
A perfect career for me would be, so there's this person I saw speak recently, and I was just like, well, not recently, it was actually several years ago by now, but I was like, that's possible. Her name's Tiffany Fikes. She's from Nashville, Tennessee, and they took off all summer. Every year they would take the whole summer off. And they would go live an adventure. So like go rent a house in New York for 3 months, and like they'd live there. Bad timing, but during the pandemic, they decided to live in, I think, Japan. And so they got stuck there. I think Japan, or maybe even China. I don't remember. And so they were stuck there for a while. So bad timing, but like, that's something really cool. There was another agent that I heard speak, and she's in California, and she doesn't, like, she wants to sell a certain amount of houses, then she's done. She normally sells that amount of houses by like August, and then she's done. And her clients know that. So they know that if they want her to help, that they have to tell her like, hey, put us on your list. We want to do business with you, because they know she won't do any work. My friend Aubrey, same way. She's in Portland, Oregon, and she's sold 100 houses by herself before, and she hated her life. So she found out that for her perfect life, she needs to sell about 60 homes, and that's it. And so she has like a list, and the same thing, like as soon as like there's 60 people, her books are closed. Like she no longer works anymore.
Only 60?
Only, right? Like that's a lot.
What's a perfect life?
I mean, and she's a solo agent, but she's like has leverage and stuff.
Jeez.
I know, right? I mean, like, but that wouldn't you love having like your whole pipeline done?
Yeah.
And like
in January.
Talk about dialed in processes.
Yeah. And so that would be ideal for me if I like just knew what the business was and like could just take off the time I want. And I was kind of getting close, because like I said, before this, I had 2 showing partners that are no longer with me. And so now I'm doing it all on my own. And so I don't have the time I used to. I used to be able to really like kind of clock out at 5, clock out on the weekends physically.
Yeah.
I'd still obviously have to work and do negotiations and contracts and stuff, of course, but I didn't have to like go show stuff.
Yeah.
And which was great. And now I have that back on my plate, and I'm just having to figure out my balance again.
Yeah.
Because I don't really want to be working this many hours, but you know, I have the business. It's not the worst problem to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also do have my next travels kind of scheduled for the remainder of the year, and I know, okay, I have 35 working days in the next 2 months where I can set appointments and go on appointments.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty dialed in on what I have to do to meet my goals.
Yeah.
Right now, but ultimately that would be the best if I could just like be done by like September.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be
That'd
lovely?
be great. That'd be awesome.
It would be.
Hey, but you know what they say? If you want to get busy, go on a vacation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just going to put in
100%.
my email, hey, go on vacation this week.
Yeah. Exactly.
I love it.
So that would be ideal.
Well, this has been a blast. We've learned so much about you. I'll be honest. When I first met you, I was scared and intimidated by you.
People
but
say
you
that all
are,
the time.
You are so nice and one of the most genuine people, just like learning and just seeing the joy that you have talking about just your relationships and your community like that. That is just like, it wasn't even, you got more excited talking about relationships instead of business. And I think that just shows how much this industry is about relationships. It's not about business, and that relationships are going to fill your bucket more. And if you're genuine and intentional with the people around you, business is going to come because you're seeking out true desires for that person instead of a desire of, well, I just want your business, you know? So I just want to say that is super unique in this world, especially in a very digital world as well. And just, I want to keep encouraging you to do that because that is super cool and very encouraging and convicting to me as well.
And I've gotten the intimidating thing like all my life. I'm like, I don't know what I do. So sorry. I'm pretty nice unless you don't deserve me to be, but that's it.
I love it. But I think it's just because you are so grounded in who you are and what your goals are and who you want to be, and it's very just present in who you are and your personality. So people that are unsure of themselves, you know, can sometimes be intimidated by that.
I mean, I've gotten that even since like my old Navy days.
Yeah.
Where like my favorite coworker or the coworkers I work best with are the ones that are just like, just tell me what to do. And I'm like, great, do this.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't know what it is. So I'm glad that you know that I'm fun now.
Yeah.
And I'll try to work on my RBF. Maybe that's it.
No. So we do want to just close out by thanking Tappan Studios for having us. If you do have any interest in doing a podcast, reach out to us. We'll get you introduced to Tappan Studios. And thank you for joining the podcast today. We really appreciated you being here with us.
Thanks for inviting me.